Welcome. I'm Andrew Eggleton and this is the Business Playroom Series 2. We just logically came up with Series 2 because the last one was Series 1. And today we have our lovely guests, our authority Mark Bowness over here, my lovely panelist, co-host, Renee Hasseldine, and over to my left here, Andrew Morello. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Mark.
Awesome to be here.
So, leading question will be, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Mark Bowness and I help people, business owners, to build and amplify tribes that shape the world.
That's a big call. It was my first thing that came to my mind. That's big. And I like that. And that's why we're thought leaders.
Yeah, and so how do you define tribe? What's a tribe?
Yeah, great question. So for me, a tribe is a group of people that are connected to one another. They're connected to an authentic leader and they're connected to a purpose, which is why I kick off with that big purpose at the beginning. For me, business is about having a purpose and living on purpose. And that's what a tribe enables every business owner to do.
Do you know what I got from that, Mark, is that I've only just started allowing myself to say that I am going to reshape the way presenting is done. That's a big call too. But only in the last month have I felt comfortable saying that. So for you to come up with that first statement shows me that that's where you are.
But here's the thing, as a tribe, so you're the authentic leader. But as a tribe, that if you want to resonate with your audience, people buy into big vision. If you're just going to say, I'm going to help people present, who cares? But if you're going to redefine something or shape something or change a million lives or whatever, everybody wants to buy into a bigger purpose because it inspires them.
Nice.
Be bold or be proud. That's the way to go about it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I guess it's also about taking a stand for something, isn't it?
Yeah, there are many forms of tribes. You know, there are tribes such as people that have, formed around Donald Trump, or there's the Occupy movement that took place. The interesting thing about the Occupy movement is that they didn't have, they were down, they were all about being down with, the 99%, and there's a 1% that weren't, that were kind of stopping them from growing and being amazing people and living their life. But there was no purpose to move on to. So that movement disbanded very, very quickly because it was like, what do we do next?
So
Which is really
there
interesting.
was a lack of vision with it?
Yeah, there was nowhere to move on to. It's what I call the away from and the towards vision.
Saying no to something, but what we yes to.
What we were saying yes to, beautiful. Yeah. So every business should have, what am I wanting to, where do I want to take my audience? That can be a local restaurant. Your goal could be to be the best Chinese restaurant in your local area that does X, Y, and Z. But I think if we're just going to be a business, it's a move away from that old transactional model, the sale and the customer, to having this living, breathing heartbeat. And all the big leaders do it, whether it's Richard Branson or whoever you look up to. They're an authentic leader that has a vision and purpose, and we have to have that even as small businesses.
That leads me to for me, an obvious question is, how do you do that? I mean, it's a big vision. How do you bring people into that?
Yeah, it comes back to you. Like the very first thing, and we've talked about this a lot, but the very first thing that we have to do is understand who we are, why we're here, and what it is that we want to achieve on planet Earth. And for me, that came through a breakdown moment. My marriage ended. I hit rock bottom, like serious rock bottom, serious point of depression. And for me, that breakdown was the beginning of the revelation of my purpose. It was like, I can be anything. I can do anything. Like from rock bottom, I knew that if I tried to launch a global business, say it went wrong, totally wrong, maybe I go bankrupt, I'm still here, I'm still alive. Yeah. So it's about discovering why you're here, and that's what a tribe flows from.
It's interesting because for me, it's only, I learned this the same way a lot about myself. It's only when your knees hit the dirt, when they hit the ground, that you really discover what you're all about. You're pushed down and then you're kind of broken and you come back up from that.
It's the phoenix rising, isn't it? Because I had a similar, depression phase in my life, when I was working in the corporate world. And it was the big question, well, what's the purpose? And actually the question I was asking myself daily was, well, what's the point? What am I going to work for? What's the point? And I needed to have a deeper meaning to get up in the morning, you know, otherwise I was just like, well, my life here is done.
Can I, Morello, it is Morello, right? I can say that,
Morello.
not Andrew Morello. Morello, okay. I know you won Australia's first Apprentice.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah. And one thing reality TV does is they deliberately push you to the edge. That's how you make TV. Was there a point in that program where they did the same and you found out a lot about yourself?
Well, even the process of getting to there was 10,000 people tried out for it. It was a 6-stage process to get to the final 12 to even get on the show. But, when Mark was saying that you sort of reach rock bottom, I've done a lot of work on my spiritual side over the last sort of 3 to 5 years. And I think through challenging life experiences is where you actually grow the most and where you forge those visions and those dreams. And when we did the show, what it did is when you've got cameras watching you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 10 weeks, it really forces you to become your authentic self, because you can lie to the camera so many times, but because everything is being watched all the time, it catches you up pretty quick. So unless you're prepared to be true to yourself, then you're really going to struggle.
I know this isn't quite on subject, but I think in some way it is. Why does it take us something catastrophic or for us to break to learn about ourselves? What is that about human?
It's a great question.
I think we have to unlearn the conditioning from when we're children, when we're told, in various ways, shapes or forms that we're not good enough for a particular reason, or if we do this, we won't be loved, If, when you do this, you're a good girl or a good boy, or, that's good job. And otherwise over here it's silence, or that's naughty, or whatever, whatever it is. We've been told that doing this way you'll be rewarded for, and doing this that way is not. And if that happens, if something in there happens to be your authentic self, you've been told that that's not okay.
So I have a theory on it, and obviously it's an opinion and a theory, but you learn 3 things between 0 and 7 years old. You learn love, fear and hate, and that gives you your barometer that you're going to gauge the rest of your life on. And you do it, that happens in your subconscious, and then consciously you start to make decisions as you get older. Off the back of that, with our generation in a first world, I'm not supposed to politically call that first world anymore, but a developed nation as we are Australia, and in the developed world that we live in, even culturally in the Western world, and now you see these emerging markets that are joining us, you look at China, middle class, and India, they're going to start to go through the same problem, which is that we haven't seen, and it's a good thing, hear me out when I say this, it's controversial, we haven't seen a Great Depression or a Great War. Our generation hasn't. And because we haven't seen those things, we actually don't have a barometer to work out what is really bad and what is not. So the Great Depression is a depression within ourselves now. The Great War is a spiritual war within ourselves. So unless we're prepared to go on that journey and face those problems and reach rock bottom, get the dirt on the knees, I think we're going to continue to struggle. And human beings have got to be prepared to go through that.
If you had done a hashtag, I would have sworn I was sitting beside Caleb.
But it's also how we respond to that ourselves, because when we hit rock bottom, we can either, as we know, fall under, and we can drink and we can do whatever we do to hide and deal with that shit, or we can rise above it and we can utilize that as an opportunity to grow. And we can either go one way or the other. And I think the more that we're open about, even as business owners, talking about we can hit rock bottom and it's okay, that only then will we start to redefine industries and create new products and really grow in terms of a business environment.
It takes people with not just a big vision, but that ability to actually, Elon Musk is a wonderful example, not likable to everybody, but I really admire I am going to put men on Mars. I am going to, was it 2024, you're going to be able to go from New Zealand to England in 30 minutes. That's a bigger purpose. If you don't have that vision, it doesn't happen. And if we can't call out and say, I am going to redefine the way people present, if I can't say that, then I won't ever do it. I'll be in the corner going, well, it's kind of what I want to do, but I'm just going to teach it, but I'm not going to tell anyone that's what I do.
Well, on Mark's point before, you can't expect people to follow your tribe unless you're prepared to dream big.
Yes.
That's it.
Renee, I think you've got something really important to say right now.
Well, I was just going to ask, you hit rock bottom. How do you go from rock bottom to building and leading a tribe? Like, how do you do that?
Great question. So for me, rock bottom, as I say, and we talk about the environment that we were brought up in. I'm one of 6 kids. I was brought up in the church, a very Sunday school environment. I always knew that I was gay, but it was against my religious beliefs. I got married. I actually studied theology, had this breakdown moment, total breakdown, and I actually ended up in hospital having to try to take my own life. I saw my future as this dark place that I never wanted to walk into. But the next day, in that hospital bed, I saw my future as this blank canvas on which I could paint whatever picture I wanted. And it was that breakdown that, as you said earlier, we're used to who we've been taught to be, what we've been told that we should grow up to be. And I think we all hit a moment. It doesn't have to be a, life potentially ending moment, but where we go, who the fuck am I? Who am I? And it's only when we start to authentically, so one of the keys that we'll talk about in terms of building a tribe is being that authentic leader. It's only when you authentically figure out who you are that you can start to build a tribe.
Do you have something that we can give our audience, a step-by-step process or something to give them that they can go and implement?
Yeah, cool. So I've got 4 key elements to building a tribe, and I'll explain to you the steps, and then I'll actually complete the story as to my kind of breakdown and breakthrough, because it really models that. So the first key element is that authentic leader. You've got to authentically know who you are, why you're here, and what you're about. We've discussed that. Secondly, you've got to have that purpose. Every business should have a purpose as to why they're here, not just simply be that transactional process of customer sale. Thirdly, we've got to have a way to communicate with one another in the tribe, and to communicate that purpose at a wider, greater level. So one of the things that I have is a Facebook group of 24,000 people all over the world. It's generated $5 million, a Facebook group that's generated $5 million since 2013, which is pretty awesome. Yep. So that's the third thing. And the final thing is monetization. How do you monetize that tribe? Whether you are a social enterprise, a non-profit, whether you're a business, whatever it is, you've got to monetize a tribe in order to achieve that purpose, that greater purpose.
Mark, I'm going to take you through these again. Number one was being an authentic leader, knowing who you are. Number 2 was?
So number 2 is the purpose. What is that greater purpose?
So when you talk about purpose...
You can always ask.
Yeah. When you talk about purpose, are you talking about my personal purpose as a thought leader, as an expert, and then does that become the business's purpose or the purpose for the tribe? Is that how you see it?
Yeah, cool. So I believe that every business should have a personality, a brand, and that comes from the authentic leader that can be the face of that brand. That could be the chef in the back of a kitchen that's a beautiful, bubbly personality that has the vision that they want to take that forward. It doesn't matter whose that is, but it's the face that you're going to use to build that brand. Yeah. Yep. If we're, especially as small businesses, we talked about big businesses, Richard Branson and Apple, and we know the iconic kind of leaders of those brands, but it starts with you first. If for anybody watching, this, that probably has a small business, why did you become a business owner? What was your purpose behind that? And what is your greater mission around that is always a great place to start.
Yeah, so what I found just recently really with working on purpose, because I've been working on what is my purpose for sort of 17 years since I had my low point. Now, and as I'm working with my clients on extracting what their purpose is that actually you get clues from the other areas of your life. Your purpose for your business should not be different to the purpose of your life. Yeah. So, for me now, my purpose is inspiring people to just be who they are and do what they love. And that doesn't just apply for my business, that also applies for my children and for my partner and for my community.
Yeah. So it's that holistic approach.
Yeah.
I always talk to my clients about I believe it's a bit morbid, but I believe there's a moment before we die that we can look back and reflect on our life. In that moment, what do you want to be proud of that you've done? And that's holistic. It's beyond business. Yeah. It's about who we are as individuals on planet Earth and what footprint we leave.
Yeah. Yeah, the purpose is bigger. Your business is one vehicle
beautiful.
For fulfilling that purpose. Yeah. But, you've got other aspects of your life.
I think on that you talk about your purpose for your business and your personal life should be the same, because for a business owner, and I'm sure any business owners watching this, that they should believe. If they don't, then they probably shouldn't be in business. That their business is also their life's work. You know, like even and sometimes when I say that, people push back upon it and say, well, what happens when you decide to sell your business? And I said, like a legacy. Yeah, like a legacy. And but you look at the great entrepreneurs throughout history have done that, but they transcend that life's purpose and what they did with previous businesses, and you can see it over and over. It gets replicated and replicated.
There's no doubt that in my mind that Mark, you are trying to leave a legacy.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind that me wanting to reshape presenting is me stamping my mark at this stage of my life and leaving that legacy. Elon Musk is leaving a legacy. That's what it is. Unless you're in business for the money. You know what I mean? You're either money or the gift.
Yeah.
And that's what.
But also, the gift leads to the money. I talk about this a lot. You can be profit driven, but it's the results that drive the profit.
Yeah, it's true.
What does someone say to me that said, money comes with the success. Success doesn't come with the money.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It follows. Yeah, I always tell people in my workshop, chase excellence. Don't chase the money, chase excellence, because people will pay for that. You know what I mean? If you get to the top. This leads me, I really appreciate you shared something before that was very vulnerable. And it tied me into something that I always say, don't try and show your worth on stage when you're public speaking by how much pain you've been through. But you are that exception to the rule. Although I appreciated how you cut that short and you came and you focused on the positive. Now you had one of those dark moments, and it then shaped into one of the best moments of your life. So explain that you created the tribe.
Yeah. So I essentially created a tribe. I was in my hospital bed. I came with this crazy idea. I thought that, the worst thing that could happen is I go bankrupt if I built a global business. I'm still alive, right? Doesn't matter. And that was a great platform. And so bear with me, I leased a 200-acre island in Fiji that had nothing on it whatsoever. I invited the world to become tribe members. So I was the authentic leader. What was the purpose? To bring 5,000 people together to build an eco-island from scratch on a remote Fijian island.
Whoa.
Yeah, cool, right? We communicated together online, and we had tribal gatherings around the world. Yep. And it was monetized because then people went to visit the island and they paid to visit the island. So 3 months after attempting to take my own life, I was in media all over the world. Good Morning America, Today Show, New York Times. It was filmed for 18 months and became a TV show. It was filmed by Liz Murdoch, Rupert Murdoch's daughter. Became a TV show in America, Australia, and the UK. And that's because I found my authentic self.
Yeah.
Why did you just leave this to last?
Is that still running today?
Well,
It's running. Yeah, it's
wow.
running. It's grown. It's developed.
I live in an eco-village, but it's nowhere near on the scale of that.
that just came out as a complete surprise. That is, hats off. It's amazing.
But every business owner they might not want to lease an island, but when you connect to that purpose, what happened is I connected to my purpose. It exploded in the media in the ways that I could never. I wasn't kind of trying to create a viral sensation. It happened because I was connected to my truth and my purpose and why I was here, and then that energy resonated with an audience that came with me on the journey, and that's to me is what business is all about.
Is there any other questions? Because I feel like there's 10 questions we could ask you.
I'm ready.
Okay, biggest role model?
Mayor Angela.
You're stuck on an island, what is the one thing you...
Partner.
Ooh. Best advice ever given personal?
Live life once.
Worst advice ever given personal?
Doesn't know everything.
Ooh. If given one wish from a genie, what would it be?
The end of Donald Trump.
Yeah,
No time, go.
Oh, what's your favourite children's book?
Anything by Roald Dahl.
How do you find play in your business?
I live in my genius zone every day. Go.
Name something that makes you go,
Frozen yogurt.
Where did you have your first kiss?
Playground.
Tell me something we don't know about you.
I'm one of 6 kids.
Oh, 39 seconds. What?
Nailed it!
Well done. That was the business playroom. A very, I've got to say that was a very emotional, and I really enjoyed that. It was, It got in. It really got in. Thank you very much. Thank you.